let's get right into it, brother. So the doctoral journey, it's a journey that is unique, to say the least. Dr. Rollins, I'm gonna start with you. Talk about your doctoral journey. How did you get to the place of achieving your PhD?
Wow. So first, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invite. The PhD journey, my journey was interesting, and I won't go very long, but I'll just start. So I did undergraduate and master's at Ole Miss in political science and English, and wound up going to Mississippi State for the PhD in public policy and public administration. I found this individual, and I said her research was amazing. She was working on education policy, Dr. Barbara Patrick. And so I just called her, and I said, hey, I really want to work with you. And, most of the times, it's done through email and all these formal networks, but I'm first generation. So, I didn't know all the normal nuances. And so I just called her, and she happened to be in the office, and she answered, and it went from there. And so I went down and I met with her, wound up getting an assistantship working under her, and it just wound up being a phenomenal opportunity for me. That's kind of how it started, and I can kind of go through the rest of it if you want me to go.
Yeah, so
Sure.
so getting your doctorate, is that something you always wanted to do? Or?
Whoa, no way. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to teach. I wanted to go into politics. I wanted to go into politics. I always wanted to be a politician, and I'll tell you what happened. So it was John Kerry and John Edwards. I used to be the president of the College Democrats and on the Lafayette County Board of Democrats. And at that time, John Edwards, he was very popular at that time. Let's be clear, because he kind of lost his popularity later on. But they were ragging him or really getting on to him for being a trial lawyer. And I was thinking, wait a minute, this guy's father was a mill worker. He came up, through public education, and eventually became the top lawyer in the state of North Carolina. That's the American dream in my mind. And so I saw that they were attacking lawyers. So I said, well, I want to go into politics through a different route. I want to go into politics through public policy and public administration. And I wanted to go that route because I didn't want lobbyists controlling me. I wanted to know how to understand policy, how to write policy, how to evaluate policy. And I didn't want lobbyists giving me their version of the data, and I wanted to understand the data. And so I went in to Mississippi State for public policy and public administration and wound up getting an assistantship where I did research and I taught, and it wound up being great. So my first semester, my class filled up. And the next semester, the chair said, hey, Aaron, you want to take another class? So I was teaching 2 classes at 50 students each. As a graduate student, I was teaching like an assistant professor, I was teaching in the summer and every semester from then on. I was teaching 2 classes a semester while doing the PhD program. And I just started teaching, and I received pretty good evaluations, at that time, and just really good, enjoyed teaching, and it just kind of one thing led to the other. And,
future politician over here. It ain't over yet.
Oh, man, that was the when I had a little cleaner record,
Doug, I'm going to come to you. So you think about your PhD journey. Why did you decide to get this terminal degree?
Yeah, I lean on Aaron. Like I say, the PhD chose me. I ain't choose it. From that perspective. My background is in computer science engineering, and then from that, originally when I went to undergrad, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be with JT. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into medicine, and I still remember I took a lab. It was like a physics lab or something. It was like 3 hours long for the lab, and the class was already like 2 hours. College was too fun to be spending that much time in the classroom, so I was like, that's not it. But within that, I looked at job placements and what degrees had the highest job placement coming out of undergrad. And the degree at that time was Management Information Systems and Computer Science. So I chose that. That set the standard initially for me getting an undergrad degree. But then working on my master's and working in corporate, I was doing a lot of community service work, particularly alpha men, we're men of service. That's what we do. But within that aspect, I had the chance to meet someone while doing some community service work who was the vice president of community affairs at the University of Alabama. And he said, hey, you're interested, you're doing amazing work. If you want to, you should come back and get a PhD. And that was like May. I finished my master's, applied to the PhD program, quit my job, and went straight into the doc program in August. And, the cool thing about it for me is the job I was at paid for my master's. So I got a master's in engineering and then left and haven't done anything in it. But what it did is it prepared me for a PhD program, utilizing my left and right brain and things of that nature. But in that aspect right there, that's what drew me. I wanted to be a doctor, but little did I know that me getting a doctor would be in another field in a concentration, in which I still be able to do something in. So that's kind of that's the route right there.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, I'm gonna come to you. You are the MD out of the group, about to finish this up. It's a journey that all of us really can't relate to. And I'm gonna put this out here for all of our listeners. When they hear doctor, they think of you first. They think of the physician, right? What's your specialty? But even on this one episode, you have PhD, you have EDD, you have MD. So talk about your journey. What's that like?
Yeah, so I'm the eldest of 10 from Cleveland, Ohio. And so I think from as far as I can remember, the moment I could formulate thought, I wanted to go to be a physician. I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandparents were older, and they were always sickly, so we spent a lot of time in the hospital. I spent a lot of time managing medication or, grandparents getting sick in the middle of the night, calling EMS and having to kind of deal with that. And as a kid, I say, man, this is rough. Little did I know all those hardships were preparing me to be able to endure, the things I'm going through now. And so my grandmother has a physician. He was her rheumatologist, Dr. Van Warren. And I remember him allowing me to listen to her heart with a stethoscope. And I was like, this is cool. And I think that kind of set the wheels in motion for me. So my grandparents, they encouraged me to dream and dream in color. They bought me encyclopedias and microscopes and all these things. Any program that I could get involved in to kind of nurture that, they did that for me. And my journey is long. So I came to medical school as a non-traditional student. I started medical school at 32 years old. My goal was always to go into medicine. Did my undergrad at Morehouse. And so as a college student, I was power of attorney for healthcare and finance for my grandmother. And I was caring for some of my siblings. So I didn't have the traditional college experience. I was like a parent and a caregiver and trying to be a student, right? So I was, just an average college kid. So my grandmother passed away senior year, a couple months before graduation. I was devastated. Left Morehouse. I think I had like 4 classes left to complete for my degree. Went home, sad, depressed. Eventually started working a job at Cleveland Clinic and in the lab. And I'll never forget, I thank God for this lady now. She was always mean, very rude. And she would come down there and slam things on the counter. And this one particular day, all I remember her saying to me, have you ever been to college? And at that time, I hadn't finished my degree, and this was the Lord's way of tapping me on the shoulder. And after I finished dealing with her, I went out and told my supervisor I quit. I went home. I called Morehouse. I said, well, what do I need to do to finish, my degree? They told me I think I had 4 classes left. I lived in Cleveland. I would drive an hour away to Akron, take my biochemistry class. I would come back home. I'd study a little bit. I'd drive 45 minutes to Baldwin-Wallace, take a math course and a tennis course, and then I would leave there and drive like 40 minutes back to Cleveland State, take a class, and then I would go work 3 to 11. I did that every day for a year to finish my degree because I was like, nobody is ever getting ready to have that kind of conversation with me. And so lady I went to church with, who was like one of my surrogate mothers, Dr. Sonia Harris Haywood, who is now the dean of the School of Medicine at Meharry Medical College, took me under her wing and hired me. And they told her, well, you can't hire him. And she said, okay, but he's starting on Monday. And this lady moved mountains to make sure that she could nurture me and get me to where I needed to be. And so working for her, I was able to rehab my grades kind of doing on my own. Then I applied to a post-bac, did a post-bac at SIU School of Medicine in Carbondale, Illinois. That was 2 years. And then I was leaving there and was going to go to Meharry. I was waitlisted at U of L, had heard back from Meharry, was scared to miss this one opportunity, waiting on another, and found a job in Nashville working for the public health department doing some COVID contact tracing. And I was at training one day, and my phone buzzed, and it was an email. I don't even know why I picked it up. But the email said, the University of Louisville is awarding you, a scholarship. And I was like, well, that can't be true. $140,000 scholarship. I haven't even gotten into the school yet. And then the next email came and said, you are admitted. Congratulations. And I think, for me, one of the greatest moments of my life, because I feel like my grandparents sacrificed so much for me to get to this point. And so, I still make my life decisions as if they were here and they could see me, because I never want to embarrass them. But this is tough. In a class of 165, less than, 5-6% of those students are, African Americans, and far fewer are males. And so usually in a space, I'm the only one or one of 2 or so. But my journey here has equipped me to be able to survive this. Not an easy thing, but if it was easy, everybody could do it. So I just pray to God, not to necessarily make my life easier, but to make me a stronger man.
Yeah, I love that.
Dope, man.
Yeah.
I think the thing that stands out too in everybody's responses is that we all had someone that wanted to tap into us.
Yep.
And then from that, we've been able to do the same for others. So
Yeah.
that resonated in me as all y'all kind of explained.
Yeah.
Can I speak to that before you go? And that's why I really wanted to move my schedule around to be here today. I really want to tell you all. I mean, I love what you all are doing with the Black Male Equity Network, because you're giving us a platform to go back and tell others, hey, you all, we're not perfect. You may see Dr. Rollins, you may see Dr. Craddock, you're going to see Doctor, but these aren't easy journeys to get here, but you can do it. So I really love that you all are doing this, and wanted to be here and be a part of this, because I love what you all are doing. Man.
That's how it originated, though. I mean, that was the core fundamental piece of it really coming together was, man, it's a lot of us that look like us that don't have anybody to connect to in a lot of different places. And particularly start out with a higher ed conversation, but from that, it's blossomed to much more. So,
yeah, Doug, you had a great vision. I always, when talking about this out in the community, talking about the summer of 2020, and the 5 of us on a virtual call, and how things have evolved and blossomed to where they are now. Perfect segue to the next question. Talk about the importance of a Black man getting his terminal degree. We all have been able to go through the experience, finish, some very close to completion. What would you say to other Black men out there, Doug, about those considering getting their doctorate?
Yeah, man, if it's in you, definitely shoot for the stars and make it happen. I think the seeds that we plant, so the opportunity to get a terminal degree, by far, those 3 letters go such a long way, particularly in society, particularly the labels that are part of a Black man's journey. Having the opportunity to obtain that education success or whatever that goal is, or that target. When you do that, I think for me personally, it opened up the world that I didn't know existed. When you in spaces and places with people that you would never think that you would have been in, whether it's a dollar figure on their shoulder or a terminal degree or access or whatever the case may be, it allows you that, but it also allows you, I think personally, to elevate your self-confidence and how you operate and who you are, authentic self in that, a genuine self. And through that, man, it conquers things, man. It opens doors that unfortunately wouldn't be open just because you have those 3 letters.
Yeah.
And, for us, it's important that we understand the accountability and the responsibility that we have in obtaining this. So, one thing, we talk about in my family is, you're blessed to bless others. So the opportunity to have this blessing of having the chance to get a doctorate degree now provides the opportunity for us to help others do that. But I would say anybody that has a desire to get there, know that you have a team of individuals that want to support you any way that we can, and also individuals outside of that. And kind of going to the conversation we just had, we had somebody that poured into us. So always remember, there's somebody that wants to help you be more than you probably think you can be.
Yeah.
And then from there, we have the chance to do that. So that's how I answer.
So I love that. So for me, my story, to be totally transparent, I didn't think I could even get through undergrad. I was first-gen college student. Daddy went to the military. Mom went to community college in Louisville. She dropped out after 1 semester. So for me, can I even get a bachelor's? So my journey got really interesting. Like I started studying journalism, broadcasting, WKU, was learning myself, then transferred to U of L, came back home, and that's where I finished undergrad. So I had this sports background, and then I started studying theology. I went to I did a post-bac like you, JT, got some credits in religious studies, and then went on to seminary school.
Amen.
So I'm thinking about Christian education and learning this other discipline, completely different than sports journalism. And so I had a moment, it was May of 2017. Went to Dubai, UAE, short-term missions trip, learning about the educational landscape over there in the Middle East. And I had a job offer in Kuwait to be a PE teacher, or apply for a doctoral program to get my doctorate. Now, I went straight through in my 20s, and I started teaching in higher ed at 25. So I was getting some teaching experience, but I'm like, I don't feel comfortable going to Kuwait. ISIS had just hit them 2 years prior. I have no connections there. So when I said no to that, I applied to USC, I applied to Vanderbilt, and I applied to Spalding University here in Louisville, Kentucky. The unique thing about the EDD is that you got to have a lot of work experience. They prefer 5 to 7 years of
Practitioner.
work experience because you're that practitioner. I'm 27. I took all my adjunct experience, a little bit of journalism, a little bit of, I just combined it together. Vandy said no. USC said no, because my goal was to get to LA. I love the West Coast. I was trying to get out there to LA.
We're ready for LA, bro.
And at 27, wasn't ready for it. They would have me alive, right? Maybe not, I wouldn't even be here today. But I remember I was teaching class. I got that email from Spalding that said that I got in. And for real, for me, it was like an epiphany moment because I knew what the next phase of my life was going to be at 27.
Yeah.
Now, I chose EDD instead of PhD because I didn't know if I had 4, 5, 6 years left in me. My master's was 3.5, and that almost was like a doctoral experience. I was tired. I was almost wiped out. But everything that you said, Doug, about somebody pointing to you, investing, I'm not sure I had that. I'm not sure I had it. I was the youngest in my cohort. I was the baby. But I understood I needed to get the degree to advance in higher ed, which is where I was currently working in. Actually, Dr. Christopher Jones, other brother, he's the one who helped me to understand and process the EDD and look at leadership, which is what I study, interdisciplinary leadership, to where I was trained in such a way to where I can transfer skills, not just in education, but business, government, nonprofit, healthcare, you name it. So I always wanted to, keep options open, if I ever decide to go into a different field or industry. But, it's nothing like being a part of a special doctoral experience and you're viewed differently in your family, right? And so, JT, talk about that. What does it mean when your hometown's Cleveland, Ohio, you the MD in the family? What's that like?
10, bro? You said 10, right? I mean, that,
all single bursts.
be fruitful and multiply.
It's tough, especially when you're the first in your family. That being the first carries a lot of weight because the rest of your family's kind of leaning on you.
Yeah.
And so, especially in a lot of African American households, it's like, well, when one makes it, everybody feels like they've made it. And so, I had to really learn how to set boundaries with my family in terms of I need to study, taking care of my mental health. Everybody's calling me to put out their fires, et cetera, and getting them to understand that although I love you and I want the best for you, this is your situation, and I'm going to teach you how to deal with that situation versus me constantly putting those fires out. Yeah. And I think one of the other things I had to learn, as difficult as it has been, is that, my siblings are not all going to do the things that I would like them to do. I think we would all say that we don't do all the things that, our parents or, or the good Lord would like us to do. So I've had to really allow them to live their lives and try to just pour into them the things that they can absorb and utilize and try to help them out along the way. But it's tough, man. Balancing as a first-gen student, trying to balance, academics with, self-care and mental health and still caring about your family, looking after them, but having to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to make sure I finish this degree. Yeah. It has not been easy. I think, I grew up poor, but I was telling Doug earlier, I said, this is the most stress I've had in my entire life. We are definitely on the potter's wheel right now. But, I try to take everything and find something good out of it. I know that the Lord did not bring me to this juncture to take his hands off me. So that gives me great solace. I'm not doing this by myself. But it's tough, man, especially, black men, we take on so much. And we don't have the outlets all the time to kind of let out some of that stress and anger, anxiety, et cetera. And so a lot of us keep it in. And so, this group, BMEN has been excellent, fellowship with a bunch of brothers who are, well educated, have traversed this journey, similar beginnings. And so this has been a great outlet for me in terms of, relieving stress, iron sharpening iron. And so it's been, this has been a godsend. And I thank the young lady who told me about it when I first got here.
Yeah, I remember that. I got the email from her. Yeah, I sure did.
She gave me some names.
Sure did.
She was like, you need to be connected with these guys. Crazy. I think I sent you an email. I know I sent one to Randy.
Then you sent it to the overall Gmail
and,
too.
I was like, I got to get connected, and it turned out to
about
be.
that.
Here we are now.
Yeah.
And when you finish, you got to be like Cleveland.
Listen, they gonna print, next to my name, they need to print Jesus on that. 'Cause I tell you, this degree was not earned by me.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God. Hey, similarly, let me tell you. Oh, I was going to say, I didn't know you were one of 10 all this time. You know, I'm one of 8.
Mississippi
I
bread.
understand. I understand their plight, man. He's talking about rough. I wasn't the oldest. I was third, but a similar situation, you know. So I said earlier I was first generation, but I was first generation getting a terminal degree or getting the advanced degree. My mother has a degree in chemistry, and she raised us by herself. And she told us young, she said, you know, either get a degree or be all you can be. Very simple. So my oldest sister, you know, Tasha, and we're all over. So mine's a little different. We grew up so close together, and now we're all over the country, sometimes all over the world. And I think my plight is we're just not close enough anymore. We're not close as we used to be. I mean, we were very poor, and, you know, I'll tell people all the time, the reason I got a PhD or stayed in school so long is I never took a summer off from freshman through PhD. I never took a summer off. But it wasn't by just, I'm not no super student, but when you leave my house, somebody want your bed. You know? So if I go back, I got to go and share a restroom. All those, it was 6 sisters and a mama, you know, and then the baby's a boy, so he didn't really get as tough as the rest of us, you know. You know, it was people wanting your bed. So I can go back home in the summer, or I can stay here and go to school, you know. That's why I stayed in school, to be honest. You know? And, you know, I did my, you know, caught up on my grades as well in the summer. I think the summer was good for me. But it's been good. God's been good, man. You know, the oldest sister, Tasha, we're all over, you know. So she's, Tasha's in, she's computer science. Her PhD is in computer science.
That's what's up.
She's down in Mississippi still. Daisy's in San Diego, West Coast. She's in healthcare. I'm third. Erica, she's a federal attorney in Dallas.
Oh, man.
Francesca, she's writing right now, her PhD. She's in Mississippi still. Debbie, she's at the Pentagon. April, her
Mama
PhD
did that.
Engineering.
She did a job.
Her PhD in engineering. Something she's writing right now as well in Dallas. Then the baby, he had it easy, you know. But he's a Marine, though.
Mama birth doctor. Mama birth doctor.
But our problem is totally opposite now. You know, we just don't talk to each other. We don't get to see each other very much because all of our jobs and lives just have us so far away. And I genuinely hate it for our kids, though. I hate it for the children because they don't get to grow up the way we grew up. So it kind of saddens me sometimes that they just won't know how good it is to have that family bond. The way we did.
Aaron, I'm going to go somewhere. You said that you went straight through, didn't take a summer off.
Never.
Since your freshman year. I think you finished your PhD at 28.
28 years old.
What was the easiest part of the doctoral journey to you?
Walking across the stage.
The easiest part, I wasn't expecting that question. The easiest part was it was fun. I enjoyed college.
What was fun?
I'm in college. I had fun in college.
Yeah.
So I pledged as a freshman. I was a second semester freshman pledging.
I got him early.
Part of the reason I stayed in college because that semester I had 2 F's and 2 D's that spring. I had a good fall. I lost my full scholarship.
You had a good spring, though.
Oh, the spring was
Yeah,
good.
you had a good spring.
The second half of the spring was good. The most part of the spring was not good, but the second half was good. So I actually started that first summer because of necessity, and I had to go back and get my scholarship back. So I was just there. And college I met some lifelong friends and brothers, and just people I would love for the rest of my life in college. So the easiest part was meeting people who you don't get to choose your family, but get to choose your loved ones and friends. So I found some brothers for life. You know.
Cool.
So when you was working on the PhD, what was the easiest part of that journey?
Oh my gosh, the easiest part. The schedule, probably the schedule.
That's out of me.
Not the work schedule because you're working 60 hours. I mean, you're teaching classes, you're studying, you're reading a book per week per class. But it was the fact that you only had to go to attend class once a week, and it was our courses were on one on Thursday night and 2 on Fridays, something like that. So you had the whole rest of the week to yourself.
Yeah.
So I love having flexibility and autonomy. And I tell people all the time, I don't make the most money of all my friends and colleagues who have the same degree, but I have autonomy. I love my life. I love controlling my life.
Yeah.
I love to be able to wear what I want to wear, Doug. Now we wear what we want to wear to work, you know. I think the easiest part was just having, it taught me that, as long as you get your work done, I can get my work done overnight. I work overnight still to this day. It's nothing for me to get up 2, 3, 4 in the morning and work through where no one else can bother me, and I can get up, So I'd like to be able to control my life and control my schedule. That's important to me.
real.
Doug, when you was working on your PhD, what was the hardest thing to you?
Yeah, so I went from engineering, math, science to education. So it was a total flip.
Absolutely.
So the most difficult part for me in the transition was the writing. I wasn't a good writer. I was a more technical, writer, but I wasn't a writer from a scholarly standpoint. And I used to go to the writing center 2 or 3 times a week and get help and preparation. So I think that aspect, when I think about the classroom experience, man, was that writing piece, man, because I was big trash. When I go back and read some of the stuff I was writing, like the assignment, bruh, I was like, what was I thinking? But I had never been able, I've always been a good talker. So, so I could talk my way out of stuff or whatever. And then for me, I went back and looked at some stuff. Even in middle school, I was insecure just about how my writing looked. So I wrote super small. So only I could read it.
Wow.
So then the teacher was like, I can't read this. Can you tell me what you're saying?
Wow.
Eat them up. Yeah, bro. So
I
I kind of discovered that within the doctoral program, because the journey itself, regardless, it can be lonely. And JT kind of talked about it earlier. So I would say that would be the second most difficult part. The writing then, just a loneliness. Like, we didn't have a cohort. You may take a class with somebody in your first semester and may not see them again to graduation or third semester class or something like that. So I didn't have a cohort. So it just was piecemealing classes together depending on where everyone was and knocking it out. So I would say the writing and then the loneliness feature, which really brought the ideal of BMEN kind of originating, because it's a lonely road and walk, but when you can do it with somebody else, bro, it makes the world of a difference.
So somebody in our audience is listening and they're struggling with their dissertation. I don't know who it is, but somebody out there in the world is currently struggling. So for you, Doug, what did you learn about yourself, or what skills did you cultivate to get through that dissertation knowing writing was not one of your fortes?
That's dope. And I will say, too, when you said that kind of sounded like that preacher in you. Like theology came out. We got a politician instead of preacher. Yeah. So something now. Something in you. But, man, I would say one thing is, like, utilize all the resources that you have at the university. Because the thing is, if you to the writing phase, that means you did all your coursework.
Yeah.
That means you passed your comprehensive exams.
Yeah.
So you're probably much better than you think you are. But it goes back to that autonomy piece that Aaron was talking about. That dissertation process is all on you.
Yep.
There's nobody else around, nobody holding you accountable. You just got to really put that pen to the needle, where the case may be, and really make it happen. So I would say get structured and focused. Understand that this is a limited amount of time that you need to put in this work for like a greater investment that's going to come in the future for you. So getting through this is extremely important. And then look at the percentages. Yeah. Very few finish. Absolutely. But those that do finish, like, look at their lifespan and what they're able to do over the course of their life. Yeah. So utilizing your resources, tapping into that inner strength that you had that got you to this point. And we know it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, but getting to the finish line is extremely important. And whether it's somebody sitting right here, whether it's another group of guys or individuals that you know, men, women, whatever the case may be, look for those allies of support. But in particular, look for someone that has gone through this process, because they'll be able to speak to you directly on how you can get from point A to point B to the finish line.
I love if you don't mind, can I
go ahead.
Hit on one thing? Absolutely. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Let me operationalize that for a second.
Yeah.
If you are in the process, do something every day.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is.
Yep.
Just, find out what you need to do. Even if it's rewriting, even if it's going back and reading what you said, or editing something. Just do something every day when you're in the process, and I promise you'll find yourself, you slowly build momentum.
Muscle
if you
memory,
know
baby.
at some point, and secondly, go somewhere. Find, if it's a coffee shop, if it's find your place. Go somewhere and do something every day, wherever your place may be. If it's 20 or 30 minutes, that's how you operationalize that. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Go somewhere that's your writing place or your thinking place or your whatever place, and do something every day.
Yeah,
I love that. A nugget. Yeah, that was good, Aaron.
JT, the medical journey, what advice would you give to someone out there considering being an MD?
So, being non-traditional, coming to medical school later, I always joke that medicine is a young man's game, starting early. But, coming in older, you can hang. I think one of the things that they have to decide early on is that they belong. I never dealt with imposter syndrome until I got to medical school. Wow. I walked in everywhere I had ever been the same way my grandfather taught me. You walk into a room like you own the room and everybody in it. And so it wasn't until I got here where there's 165 people and only 2 or 3 of me, and I've got to study a lot longer and a lot harder to get to the same place, that those thoughts creep in. Or you fail an exam, and you know, especially when you miss it by 1 point or 2 points.
Yeah.
Those things kind of mess with your head. So really understanding your why. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Holding on to your faith, knowing that if the Lord brought you to that point, He can lead you. You know, He can lead you through it. And start early. Take advantage of mentors, every opportunity. If I could redo the journey, man, I would have went so much harder in high school. I would have went so much harder in college.
Yep.
I would have been not a recluse, but I'd have been holed up somewhere, really chipping away at it.
Yeah.
Because you really, you know, coming to medical school, you have to know so much so quickly. And so really getting that foundation, being sure of yourself, you know, knowing who you are, who you aren't, really holding on to the values you have. You got to figure out, you know, when the bottom is falling out of everything, you know, you got to make sure that you know what your foundation is. And so, you know, for me, you know, thankfully my grandmother took me to the, you know, to the feet of Jesus when I was a kid.
Same here.
And laid me there and said, you know, follow him. And that has really given me foundation. I had friends who, you know, did not necessarily have that strength in their faith. And, you know, our journeys turned out a lot differently.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
Brothers, we coming up on our time.
Oh, man,
So
we
we're
just
gonna
started.
have
I know,
a little
right?
we're gonna have a little fun at the end.
Oh, yeah.
In 5 seconds or less, the doctoral journey
Seconds or less.
in 1 word. Aaron,
Tough.
2 seconds. That was good. Doug,
Oh. There you go, bro.
that's it.
Ooh.
JT,
It's gonna be 2 words: game changing. Game changing.
for me, I'm gonna say purpose.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say purpose.
I'm gonna say life changer, but
Yeah. I know for me, getting my doctorate opened up my mind to so much. I just wanted to be on ESPN at one point. I'm like, there's so much more to see in this world and what you can do. And I love that my doctorate put me in a position to where if I want to do that,
You can go
there's a job for it. If I want to do that, there's a job for it. If I want to do that, right? So it's a special journey, one that isn't the easiest, but it's one that we embrace and we love. So I just want to thank y'all again for being on this episode,
appreciate it,
and
we appreciate that.
we'll definitely get into some more topics as we move forward.
Pleasure's all
Yes,
mine.
sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
appreciate you, bro.
All right.
guys.
Good stuff, fellas.